Yo, what is up guys, it's Hycross, and today we're checking out something very interesting. A mouse that's aiming to compete with the Razer Viper V3 Pro, which in my opinion is the best gaming mouse on the market right now, but for half the price. This is the EWEADN S9 Ultra Gaming Mouse, and after testing it out, I gotta say, it's impressive for the price. So let's start off with the unboxing. First of all, you get a very nice packaged box. You see a EWEADN S9, very sleek, very clean, nothing really special about the box. I really like that it's very simple. That's honestly all you need out of a mouse box. Now, after opening it up, what you guys are going to see that it comes with, so obviously you're going to get your S9 Ultra gaming mouse, and they sent me this very sharp, sleek red color. I've never owned a red gaming mouse, and this looks just so sleek. I love the pop of color, super shiny. The coating feels amazing. I'll talk about the coating very soon. But just a very sleek gaming mouse. I'm really in love with this color. And yeah, very nice, very striking red color. Obviously, you're going to get your user manual. It kind of explains everything about the mouse, kind of explains how to set everything up, what all the buttons do, stuff like that. You're also going to get some mouse tape here, some mouse grips. Honestly, I've talked about this in the past. I'm not a huge fan of mouse grips. Personally, I just like to use the mouse as is, but I know a lot of you guys are fans of that. So it's really nice that they throw those in there just in case. And yeah, that's pretty much everything that's going to come in the box. Everything else is just right here. Obviously, you're going to get your dongle. This dongle supports up to 8K hertz wireless polling. Very sleek there. And then there's also a USB-C lightweight paracord cable for charging or wired play. So very simple and clean, no extra fluff. That's really what I like out of gaming mice boxes. And yeah, shout out to EWEADN, very clean there. Now let's get to talk about the mouse. So let's talk about first impressions with this mouse. And the very first thing that I noticed is that it feels a lot heavier than most of the gaming mice that I used recently. Like straight out the box, I expected something a lot lighter. And honestly, I picked it up and I was like kind of shocked at how heavy it feels. That is because the S9 Ultra clocks in at 65 grams, which is fairly heavy for today's extremely light gaming mice. I feel like gaming mice are slowly becoming lighter and lighter, and they're pushing kind of towards that norm of about 50 grams or less. And so 65 grams I would consider fairly heavy in today's standards in 2025. The next thing I noticed was the coating. It's got this kind of nano cryo-grip coating that feels really good in hand. It's anti-slip, anti-wear, and it honestly feels very premium, especially for a budget mouse. This mouse comes in at only $65, while the Razer Viper V3 Pro is currently coming in at $137. So that's over half the price of that Razer Viper V3 Pro. I'll get to the specs of this mouse in a second, but yeah, this coating feels absolutely great. Super anti-slip. When I played on it, it just stuck to my hand like glue. Honestly, no issues there whatsoever. So now let's talk about some key features with this mouse. This mouse is using the Pixart PAW3950 paired with the Pixart PAR2862 processor. So you're genuinely getting some true esports level tracking with this mouse. And for clicks, it's rocking the Kailh white blade optical switches, which I've heard of Kailh switches before. They're rated for 100 million clicks. The clicks feel super crisp and snappy. And I'll actually give you guys a quick sound test of those right now. So as you guys just heard, the clicks sound great, super light, super crispy. I'm a really big fan of those. And the highlight of this mouse, obviously, is that it supports up to 8K hertz polling rate wirelessly, meaning that's a 0.125 millisecond latency. So this thing is crazy fast. So the next thing I want to talk about with this mouse is actually the gaming software. So what you guys need to know about the gaming software, it's super easy to set up. And I'm actually going to switch my screen real quick and show you guys how to set this up, just so it's helpful in case you guys do get your hands on this mouse. So right here, obviously, this is the EWEADN website. All you guys have to do is just go to their products, and you're going to scroll down until you see the EWEADN S9. You're going to click that, and make sure you guys select the S9 Pro/Ultra driver download. Once you click that, it's going to have you guys set up the download. Obviously, click OK, go through the whole process, and then it's going to bring this up. And this is just a really user-friendly software that I'm a huge fan of. I don't like softwares that are very bogged down and they just seem really overwhelming, and it makes you not even want to go into the software. A lot of brands have really messed up their softwares recently, and I just haven't been a fan of them. However, EWEADN kind of knocked it out of the park with this one, so I'm a really big fan. Home is obviously just going to show this. You just have to click on the mouse to get into the other settings. And so there's a buttons tab. You guys can play around with your buttons. It shows the mouse function, everything like that. There's a DPI section, so obviously 800 DPI all the way up to 42,000 DPI, which is kind of insane. And then your report rate, I've actually been playing around with 4,000 hertz. My screen does still jitter a bit, so honestly, my sweet spot has always been 2,000 hertz polling, but obviously, if your PC can support it, 4,000 hertz, and then it does have that option for 8,000 hertz. However, I think that PC specs are still not ready for 8K hertz consistently, but if you guys do want to play around with that, 8K hertz is an option, which is really, really cool. There's a macro tab. You guys can play around with that. I'm not big into macros or anything like that. And then there's a config tab. You guys can, play around with the center drawing performance, mouse LOD height, window system settings like the movement and speed, the scroll speed, stuff like that. I don't like to play around with a lot of this stuff. The only thing that I'm really playing around with is going to be that report rate right here. But yeah, I genuinely like to stick around 2,000 hertz, sometimes 4,000. But yeah, super user friendly. Shout out EWEADN. Very cool there. Okay, so now let's talk about a little bit of a comparison with the Razer Viper V3 Pro, because EWEADN is positioning the S9 as a budget alternative to the Razer Viper V3 Pro. And honestly, at around $65, it's really close in performance in my opinion. You're getting flagship level specs, a top tier sensor, 8K hertz polling, crispy clicks, but for nearly half the price. So it's pretty insane. I'm just quickly going to show you guys why they're comparing it to the Razer Viper V3 Pro. It'll show you guys right here. So I'm actually going to hide my webcam real quick. And this is why. So the EWEADN S9 Ultra, it's 127 millimeters long, it's 65 millimeters wide, and 41 millimeters tall. And comparing that to the Razer Viper V3 Pro, there's literally a 1 millimeter difference in specs. So it's essentially the same exact shape. 1 millimeter is going to feel identical, I promise you. The only difference is that there's an 11 gram difference in weight. So obviously that's why I felt it so much. An 11 gram difference is a lot. So if you guys have the money, I almost recommend spending almost solely due to that 11 gram difference. I know the specs are pretty similar. However, I still think the Razer Viper V3 Pro is still more premium in performance. It still feels snappier. I still will prefer it over any other gaming mouse that I own. However, the EWEADN S9 Ultra, yeah, it's very close in specs, but that 11 gram difference is enough to kind of push me away just a little bit. But then again, that is if you have the money. If you don't have the money and want to go for a budget alternative, this mouse is perfect. This mouse is a great budget alternative, especially if you're fairly new to the gaming mouse industry and you just want a mouse that's going to give you high performance, but it's not going to break the bank. I will highly, highly recommend the EWEADN S9 Ultra. After playing on it in-game, it felt great. It feels like a standard gaming mouse. It doesn't have a crazy premium feel. However, it still performed very well. And yeah, it's still a great option for a gaming mouse. So lastly, I do want to mention right here, the scroll wheel is a big thing that I like to talk about when reviewing gaming mice. As you guys can see, it does pop out of the mouse just a tad there, which is perfect. I don't like when scroll wheels are tucked into the mouse, so if you have scroll wheel reset binded, it's hard to scroll and reset everything. But yeah, I love this mouse because it's super easy to reset. The side buttons felt amazing. I do have wall and stair binded to my side buttons. Everything feels great there. And honestly, not really much to complain about with this gaming mouse. It feels really great, and it is pretty cool that it is kind of a budget option to the Razer Viper V3 Pro. So for my final thoughts, if you guys are looking for a lightweight esports grade wireless mouse, but you don't want to drop $140, then the EWEADN S9 Ultra deserves a serious look. I'll have purchase links down below if you guys want to check it out. And I want to thank you guys for watching, and I quickly want to thank all of you for 10,000 subs. We finally hit it. I really appreciate that, guys. It is my biggest milestone as a creator. I'm going to keep pushing out content because I love what I do. So yeah, with that said, please let me know in the comments what you think of the S9 Ultra, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.